Is it what? Oh god, I'm shaking everything.
In progress. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Mind Highs episode 123. On this episode, we speak to Muhammad about how to become a millionaire.
I listened to a podcast yesterday, and they were discussing wealth and millionaires and stuff.
Okay.
And they were just talking about like the different tiers of wealth and how like the jump between like $100 million and like
And a billion.
and all this stuff. Yeah, and it's just like I can't remember what category it was, but they were like, oh yeah, did you know like they were doing like reverse inflation, so they would say like, oh, for this person, them staying in a, I don't know, 5-star hotel would be $1 a night for us, so to speak.
Oh,
And they were
okay,
doing
yeah.
they were trying to process this kind of reverse inflation thing,
Yeah,
which was crazy.
Yeah.
And they were just talking about the levels of
Yeah.
power and
I mean, sadly, bro, what happens a lot of the time is even people with jobs, not just business people, like you go from, 25K a year to 30K a year. Yeah. That 5K increase, I mean, a lot of it just goes on a new car or a new kitchen or, that's like what they call it, lifestyle creep or lifestyle inflation. So it's like you don't truly benefit or build wealth from that increase in salary. It's just spent on more material things that kind of keep you poor. It's like you got more material things, but you're not wealthier. The difference being like if you spend that money on, let's say you just threw it all into the stock market, 5K into the stock market, it grows 10% a year. Like eventually, like over years and years, that's really going to build up to something, isn't it? Whereas if you put it into a car that loses value, or the worst case thing is like doing a lease where you don't even own the car, these kind of things are very tempting. But I heard about this a lot, happens a lot. And then I know a guy, not personally, but I know a guy who did the opposite in a way, right? So he, for at least, I want to say 10 years, he's been in business, selling stuff online, all different types of stuff online. Let's say in his first 10 years of business, he made, let's say a minimum of like $5 million, okay? And he did the whole thing of, I've got like a huge house. I've got a Lamborghini. He bought a Lamborghini. He got everything basically, yeah? And then one day he's like, you know what? All this stuff ended up like being a distraction to me. So he got rid of everything, yeah? And he went the other way where he rented out, I don't think he even bought it. He rented out a flat and he has no furniture other than a mattress on the floor and like a fridge, like extreme minimal, like one desk and a computer and a fridge and a bed, or like a mattress, not even a bed, just a mattress. And then he's trying to say like don't get deceived by people who are like flaunting these material things. The truth is, when you have a mansion, you got to pay this for insurance, you got to hire like security team, you got to hire a gardener full-time this. You've got a pool, okay, you think that's great, but your pool will break or it gets dirty, and you end up paying like $100,000 $200,000 a year just to maintain this stuff. And he's like, it just it distracts you from growing your business. So next thing you know, your business actually going downhill because you're being distracted by the Lamborghini, by the house, by the this, that. So he's like, look, I'm like, he's making a bit of a joke about it. He's like, I'm the most woke millionaire. I've got nothing in my house. I'm like the next level. The next level of stuff is to have nothing. but it, you can't really disagree with it in theory, isn't it?
Although it depends what your goal is, There's always that balance you have to strike, because if money's not going to be spent, then what is it just doing sitting in your bank account? You save and you reinvest and you make more of it, and then
that's true. That's true. And in his case, what he did, which is something really good, is he was able to like shut businesses down that he wasn't fully happy with, or it wasn't gonna. It was going to stagnate a bit, It's not got that potential for explosive growth. He was able to comfortably shut that down, have millions in the bank, and start a new company from scratch without having any pressure of making any money in the first year. And so in the first year, all he did was obsess over making an amazing product. And then even when he's selling, he doesn't have to be desperate or picky. He's like desperate or like, just needing money. He's like literally, our goal in these first, like, let's say 3 to 6 months after launch. Our goal is to get customers in, find out what issues they find with the product, fix that, and then just do that again and again. And then maybe after a year of doing that, we'll like aim for like real money and profit, you know. And because of that, ironically, because of that approach, he's doing really, really well now, because he just made a really amazing product, and he optimized for customer success over money or profit, because he just had so much in the bank account, he's able to sustain that. So that's something you can do. And the same goes for if you want to start a charity. Imagine a charity that didn't need to do fundraising for the first year or 2 years. Like the first year, 2 years, you purely spend on, or maybe it's not even a fundraising. You don't ever do fundraising. Let's say you start a charity and you put $1 million into apartments, and the rent from those apartments is going to run the charity forever. So now don't worry about fundraising, just worry about how you're going to use the money from those apartments to fulfill whatever objective the charity had. Like, so, you know, that's like a wise way, I suppose, to use money. But at the same time, I was thinking about this, you probably agree with me, like all of these like YouTubers or whatever it is, it's all advice or ideas for like single people, not married, no kids, innit? It's like, especially like mothers, there's no way they're going to relate to that or find anything practical in like, oh yeah, my morning routine, I wake up and I like burn incense and I drink my coffee and do meditation.
Exactly what. So they were, like I said, this podcast wasn't it's like an offshoot of a video game podcast, but they, you know, there's such characters that they decided to do an offshoot, like different random topics. And part of this episode, they were talking about, they were going into these routines. So they had this like book or article, whatever, and it was exactly what you said. It's like this guy was writing about how to be a billionaire, how to think like a billionaire, and all of the advice was literally front loaded onto the first, like before you have breakfast sort of thing. And it was just like, oh, wake up and meditate and think about your goals and write them down, and then make this particular tea, and then he had the recipe for this tea, and then all this other stuff. And then they were like, that's it, to be a millionaire, just do all this stuff in the morning, and then everything else just fair game, do what you want to do. But it can be a bit too much. I think, like you said, the life trajectory is completely flipped, isn't it? Because people then, they do all this stuff first, and then they go and think about the family later and settling down later, whilst for a lot of Muslims at least it's the other way around. It's like, oh, we'll do the family first, and then we'll see if we can fit in all this other stuff to get that financial independence later on. So it doesn't always resonate, does it, all the content that's out there. But then again, a lot of the content is just content for the sake of content, really, as opposed to anything really valuable. Yeah, I mean, no doubt, you know, because I consume this kind of stuff for many years, and, you know, no doubt I've like implemented, you know, a decent amount of it, whatever. And even now, I guess I could implement a lot of it if I wanted to, because I'm not like a mother. Like, I think having kids changes things, but then specifically for women, it changes things like a lot more. And it's just, you know, I guess it's about being real. Okay, so if you're going to prioritize your kids, you're going to wake up when your kids wake you up, right? And then you're going to take care of them like pretty much maybe the whole day, maybe most of the day, whatever, right? That kind of prioritization and that choice is not going to be congruent with becoming a billionaire. You know, it's just not going to happen. Like, if you ever find, I don't know, let's say the CEO of YouTube is a woman, right? You think she's like spending all day with her kids? Like, obviously not. It's absolutely impossible she would ever become the CEO of YouTube if she was not sending her kids to nursery or whatever it's, you know, daycare, whatever they call it. Or maybe she has her mother, whatever, looks after. So you gotta like pick your thing in life. And I think maybe where people get confused is where they are taking advice that doesn't apply to them and then thinking, oh, how do I make it apply to me? And you might get frustrated, isn't it? It's like you're trying to like burn your incense and drink a special tea and do meditation, and then your kids like
your kids ruin every, like, imagine you're just trying to make tea, your kids like gonna pull the cup off the top and smash it, and then you try to do meditation and then they like come and just shout, you know. So then you get frustrated because you're like, oh, I'm trying to like be this thing and I can't do it.
I think it's important as Muslims to hark back to the why of it all, because you know, I'll have my phases, of course. I'll have my phases. I haven't had it in a while, actually. Maybe since I started working from home. That burning desire to be more with my family more has kind of quelled a bit. So, because I've got a lot more control of my time.
Interesting, yeah.
I've kind of inadvertently achieved a lot of what I wanted to do. You know, so the burning desire to do all of that. So, like, you know, as far as stock market stuff, I haven't really looked at it. I haven't been following anything. As far as you know, my own sort of I don't know whether it's the graphic design or whether it's other business ventures. You know, I just haven't really been that motivated or that sort of inspired. And I think
I thought it would be the opposite.
No, I think it's not, because all of that was for an end goal, which I kind of already.
What's the end goal?
The end goal was to have more control of my time and work with, be able to be with my family more. Right.
Oh, so you were thinking like through stock market and graphic design?
Through any sort of financial freedom or any sort of control I have over my life. I'd lulled myself into this thought that, once I've achieved that, I can leave my traditional job and then go.
Understood.
And then I'll have more time with my family.
Yeah.
But then, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, anything is possible with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The job I already had suddenly became, you know, work from home, suddenly became a lot more sort of you're in charge of what you do, and you, as long as you do the workload, and all of that stuff I wanted to achieve, I kind of already achieved without having to go through the hard slog, right?
Yes.
But at the same time, like, what it has highlighted to me is, like, I mean, for me at least, it made me realize it wasn't about the money. You know, I wasn't trying to make money.
It was a means to the.
It was So, but for those that do want the money, you have to ask yourself why. So, if it's for your family and stuff, that's all great. But but then, like you've just mentioned, if your family are the one that getting in the way of you achieving that wealth, so to speak, then you need to ask yourself why like
you gotta pick one, isn't it?
Yeah, you gotta pick one. And at the same time, like, a lot of people say, oh, you know, I really want to be a millionaire or billionaire, whatever, so I can help the ummah, so I can do all of this stuff. But then in the process of trying to get that, you neglect everything. You know, you neglect your family, you neglect the ummah, you neglect a lot of these things because you have this dream. And at the end of the day, I think the way I look at it, and obviously everyone can disagree, but is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts opportunities in front of you for good deeds, right? You can't always pick the good deed that you want to be known for.
Yeah,
okay?
exactly. Yeah.
So like, you know, you mentioned earlier the scenario about the hotels, right? Somebody has this idea, I'm going to buy all these properties, I'm going to rent them out, and etc. But that can take generations to actually achieve that level of wealth. You know what I mean? It's quite rare that, I mean, it can be done, of course, and I'm sure loads of people do it, but it takes a long amount of time. Most of your life is going to be trying to get to that level so that you can buy more than one property, so you can set up this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then all of that process, of course, you could say my intention is always to do that, so may Allah reward me for trying to reach that. But think of all of the good deeds and opportunities that were thrown in front of you just on your day-to-day that you've kind of put to the side because you're so focused on this particular one that you want to do.
Yes.
And I think it's important to just not lose sight of the why, because ultimately, you know, it's all for the sake of Allah, right? And that's what we'd like to see. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just absolutely peppers us with opportunities every single day for good deeds, right?
Yeah.
And just because, you know, I removed something from the path, okay, that's going to harm the Muslims, it doesn't necessarily mean that's any less rewarding than, you know, some grand sort of millionaire level good deed that you could do on that end of the spectrum. You know, each were an opportunity that presented themselves to you, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will judge you based on your capabilities. So I think ultimately my message is just try not to get lost in it all, because I think the highlight, and I see it like, you know, I used to hate it about myself, bro, because I used to get so engrossed in it that I'd like lock myself in on my computer, like, oh no, my son run up to me, I'd be like, no, I can't talk right now, I'm doing this, or do you know what I mean? Or spending money, right? So my wife and my kids might want something, I'd be like, no, I can't spend that because I need to save for this, because I need to invest here. And it literally took over my life, trying to think about the future. And I see that now in like my dad. My dad spent his whole life thinking about our futures and the future, and unfortunately sometimes it would come at the cost of the present. And all I care about now is the present with my dad. I don't care about the future like he did, and I don't know if he does anymore as much as he used to, you know. And it's not. I think that the hardest thing is to accept that you're not guaranteed to have those 20, 30, 40 years of, in 20 years, 30 years, I'm going to have that wealth now because I can envision that plan at the cost of all the time I could have spent with my family or spending that money on the here and now, the present. Anyway, I think I've done I've put an absolute downer on any long-term thinking there, but I think it's important to sort of have that in your mind, no?
Yeah, definitely. I'm just thinking like, I think there are different types of people and like I lean towards what you're saying, right? Like what I'm like really, really, really directly responsible for is myself, my own actions and my family. Okay. Like providing for them, but also giving them whatever support or guidance or knowledge or whatever that they need for the akhirah and to live in the dunya, right? That's what I'm directly responsible for. And so I'm like more leaning towards making sure that's priority, okay? But I know people who consciously chose to compromise on family, right? For da'wah, for example, or for teaching, or maybe I won't say the name, but one sheikh, like a very big sheikh, someone was talking to him and he was saying, I think he was saying like, leave the UK. Why are you living in the UK? Why don't you come, back to the Muslim world or something? And he was saying like, this is my mission, right? To do for the da'wah in the UK. That's my mission. Like, he's like, why do you think I neglected my family all these years? Like, he literally said that, meaning it was a conscious decision. He's like, look, I'm going to kind of neglect them. Like, maybe I'm not going to be extremely negligent, but I am going to neglect them compared to what maybe I would prefer to do, but for a cause. Okay. So I think there will be people who do that. And obviously you need the support of your family in order to do that. They need to be like, we understand, we always need people to do certain things. And so along the way, certain families will get neglected. Like I think of like Abdurrahman al-Sumayt, who spent his whole life traveling in East Africa, doing da'wah, and he was a medical doctor as well. So he was like doing aid and stuff as well. And that was his whole life, and he chose to kind of live with very little, and therefore his family lived with very little because of that. And he was traveling a lot of the time. And so again, you could say he neglected his family, but I would not like, how do I say it? I would not want to be compared with him Yawm al-Qiyamah, let's just say that, because the amount of people that accepted Islam, the amount of help he gave to people, and all of that. So I think there's always room for people who are going to lean more towards the bigger picture or the thing, and even if I don't want to like give a conclusion on this, but just if we like ponder on the Prophet ﷺ, do we think like, did he like he had such a mixed role, and it's like he did invest in the future, he did invest in the Sahaba, he did invest in giving them the tarbiyah, spending time in battle. Like, he went to battle, like he could have died in the battle, and then what would happen to his family? But he did it all, right? So I mean, this, right? Like I think you agree anyway, like we have to be balanced, but I think we all come with certain sensitivities and priorities, and maybe you've always been saying like the family thing. For me, I think my thinking is I want to be very balanced and efficient, right? So I believe I can make extreme wealth with 4 to 5 hours of concentrated work time a day.
Right. Yeah.
Now, if I do that, I can also give my family all that they need. Yeah. At the same time, I think I come from a completely weird perspective, because I have never like been married or had children and had a 9 to 5 and gone to work every day. I've always been working from home. So the level that I feel I might not spend enough time with my family is going to be different to someone else. So that's why maybe I'm very chill with it, because I don't even realize, like, maybe to other people, they'll be like, whoa, you spend so much time with your family. To me, I don't even know what the baseline is. Like, what I do now, that's just the norm to me. So maybe that's why I'm more open to, like, okay, of course I'm going to dedicate time for family, but I'm going to make sure as well I dedicate time to other things, and I believe I can balance it. But
I think the reason maybe I fall into saying what I said is because if we go back to like all that content and all the stuff that, you know, there's like a culture behind it, right? Entrepreneurship and all that stuff, and it's very much like blood, sweat, and tears. You have to wake up and wake up and sleep thinking about it, and you need to dream about it, and it has to take over your life. So when you try and, which isn't always the answer, of course, like you've said, you're of the opinion, quite rightly, that it's all about focus.
You have to do the right things, isn't it?
The right things with an allocated focus, as opposed to just aimless,
being all over the place.
Yeah. So, but for a lot of people, they haven't got to that yet. For a lot of people, I mean, if you go on the average person that follows those kind of pages and consumes all that content all the time, that's all they're doing, is they're consuming content all the time. Very little execution. Or maybe I'm speaking for myself, at least when I was in those sort of. But, you know, once again, everybody's got their goals. I think my biggest concern is just like, I don't want to lose myself thinking about the future, because it's not guaranteed that I'm going to get there, and I don't want to be thinking of all that time. Like, if I've got what I kind of need right now, then I don't know, it could be laziness, I don't know, but when I genuinely try and think about it, it's like, oh, do I really want to sacrifice, you know, this time here when I kind of have everything I need right now? I think it's basically on a case-by-case basis. If I identify that, oh, I'm in need of something now, okay, let's see how I can get to that, and then there's a motivation to work for it.
Yeah, but you can even, you agree, right, that there is a level where, like, you spend so much time with your family that they're like, go away. You know, there is that as well. Yeah.
But then like, you know, I'll give you an example. Like, I don't know. There's times when, like, for example, Suleiman will just be all over me, won't leave me alone, and I'll be like, listen, give me a break. Like, I've had enough, sort of thing, right? Yeah. And then, like, immediately after I do that, I'll be like, no, that was awful. Like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that. You know. And then you try and what's the word? Like, it happened earlier, actually. I was sat on that sofa, and I can't remember what I was doing. I was doing something relatively important, and he started climbing on me, blah blah blah. And then I said, oh, like, give me a break, like, stop climbing on me, you know, I need to work or whatever. And then he kind of went off and tried to do his own thing, and I thought, oh, do you know what? I looked at him and I looked at Ilyas, right? And I was like, subhanallah, Ilyas, and that's what I was doing as well. I have this, I ran out of space on my phone, so I was trying to clear out photos. I got this app called Gemini, I think, and it just basically auto clears out loads of duplicate photos and all this stuff, and videos and stuff. But because I was doing that, I was looking at how quickly they'd grown. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. So I was going through photos of, like, Ilyas when he was, like, just born, and Suleiman where he was Ilyas's age, and then because Suleiman just said to me, you know, just climbed on me, and I said, go, like, get back. I was like, subhanAllah, just looking at that made me really upset that I said that, because I was like, look how quickly they're growing. Like, this was only a couple of years ago. Look how much he's changed. And he's 4 now. I've been married for 5 years. Add another 5 years to that. He's 9 years old. He's going to school next month. Like, it's just going so quickly. Yeah. And it made me think, rah, like, before I know it, he's not going to want to be at home. He's not going to want to spend any time with me like he's desperate to right now.
Yeah.
And, you know, I can't help but think back to my relationship with my dad all the time, and obviously because he's quite sick, and just time and family, and then all this other stuff just doesn't mean anything to me. You know, I think that's why I'm like, you know, a lot of people have said it about me, family, friends, that I might not have the material aspirations that I should, and we've spoke about that at length on Mind Heist anyway. And funnily enough, the only time that the material aspirations start kicking in is when my time with my family became at risk, you know. But yeah, subhanAllah. Yeah, going off on a tangent there. But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because you're, like you said, you haven't had that 9 to 5 experience, at least not for a long time, or maybe never. So
yeah, never while married. Yeah.
No, so your perspective is going to be completely different.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, like your perspective really, like if I was to be in your shoes, I don't know if I'd always have that anxiety because I need a level of security, at least. I'm not saying that you haven't got that security. Maybe in your perspective you do, but from an outside perspective, I'm like, how can he just function knowing that, like, because I'm so far away from, you know, any family or anyone that could support me if I needed to. Obviously the responsibility of having a family, and then, you know, the nature of business, it can just dry up, can't it, so quickly. So it's like, well, how do you,
yeah,
you know, but it's you're kind of like a maverick in that sense. Like you just wake up every day is a new day. does that not keep you up at night?
It's
you
either
get really stressed out sometimes.
No, not about that. But it might be, look, bro, it's either tawakkul or it's my bank balance. It's one of them that's helping me with that, you know. I'm not going to say which one.
Yeah.
So,
no, alhamdulillah.
I think I'm quite good with finances, so I always like try and keep a buffer and this and that. Like I know if everything dried up, I know how long I have. And also because like, in the end, I have spent the last 5-6 years learning about business and marketing. I have some level of confidence that I can start something from scratch within a few months, you know. So there's that as well.
That's terrifying, bro. To me, at least. Honestly, like just the thought of that terrifies me. Like, oh my God, I have to start something right now from scratch or else.
Yeah.
Not because it's me, because if it was just me, that's the thing. If it was just me,
yeah,
there's always a way, and I don't, you know, I'm very happy with very little, so I would survive with nothing until I could get something. But it's because of that responsibility of, I've got my wife and my kids, and they're relying on me, that I don't know, that terrifies me, the thought, like all of this could dry up, and how am I going to get through that, you know?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, obviously, we should just be comfortable regardless, because we just trust that Allah will provide. And, you know, we'll find a way out. I think with me, it's maybe not the right thing that I feel like, yeah, I know business, like I can do it, but that's trusting in myself a bit more than trusting in Allah. Inshallah, there is always the element that, like, yeah, like when things have been bad for me, I have just thought, look, Yani, find a way, like Allah will provide. Allah always, like literally, I do have like 3, 4, 5 times in my life where Allah just provided from nowhere, and I'm like, that will happen again. I do have that belief, but I just wish that was like the only reason I feel security, and I can't say it is, you know, truthfully. But yeah, I mean, yeah, but even in the hard times, bro, like I don't think I realize the blessing I have, the fact that I'm like working from home. I've been working from home since I got married. I've spent so much time like with family because of that and all that. So I don't think I fully grasp the opposite side, like we're saying. But alhamdulillah, like even some people would trade their big salary for much lower salary, but like time with family, less. Like some people hate, I think I would definitely hate that, like the commute. Firstly, we discussed that last episode, yeah? The commute, the like people that you have to work with that you don't really want to work with, the time away from family, the tiredness when you get home, all of that. Some people would trade that for a lower salary, but then, you know, get rid of all those things. They would happily do that. So, you know, money is not always the thing that solves stuff, innit? Like, I remember in the 4-Hour Work Week, Tim Ferriss like, just make sure what you actually want requires all the money you think it needs.
Yeah,
it's like, if you want to like travel and spend 3 months in Sweden, I think this is the exact example he gave, yeah? He's like, if you want to hypothetically spend 3 months in Sweden, yeah? Who says that you need to like save up loads of money to fly out to Sweden? You need to like quit your job because you can't get a 3-month holiday, can you? So you have to quit your job, then save up money for the tickets, and then save up money for like rent in Sweden and all that, yeah? Who said you have to do that? Who said you can't get an internship at the embassy in Sweden and they'll pay for your accommodation? You know? So he's like, there's not just one way to that goal. There might be multiple ways. So spending time with your family, it could mean working remotely in a job. It could mean doing business, so then you work from home. It could mean, you know, many things. So like you're saying, like the goal is what's important. And then it's like, you have to always keep the goal in mind. And I think a lot of people watching these YouTube channels, the culture today is like, yeah, everyone can start a business. Everyone should start a business. And before you subconsciously agree with that, you need to actually answer the question, should I? Do I want? Yeah. Is that in line with my goals? And by the way, I just want to say caveat, like I was saying, I can work 4 or 5 hours concentrated a day and make good money. Yes, I can. I believe that. I believe most people could do that. But if you want to make like, I'm like, I don't know, $1 million a month, for example, a business, I don't think you could do. You know, I think you need the next level for that. But just good money, yeah, you don't need a lot of time. But some of these people like that we always hear of, the big ones, right? The Dropbox and the YouTube and the Google and the Tesla. Those are like we're talking billions of dollars every single like 3 months. They're making billions. That kind of business is different. That requires, you know, more. That requires giving up everything sometime, you know, at least for that time.
But then you, like I said, you know, you hear about those that made it, not about the probably the way bigger percentage
losses. Survivorship bias.
That did all of that and more and never scratched the surface. So.
That's true.
And also at the same time, like, you know, going back to what you were saying about goals, like, come on, reassess. Everyone has to reassess what their goals, honestly and truthfully, because if it's all, you know, if it's all material and it's all like, oh, I really want a nice car and a nice house, and, you know, it's kind of like, I don't know, at least for me, it's just so empty. It's just so pointless, because really you're selling one thing for another, you know. It's but everyone's different, you know. Everyone's different. Like, I don't, you know, you don't strike me as a guy that's working all of this sort of efforts for a Lamborghini, right? But you know, if you had the money one day and you got one, it'd be a bonus. But that isn't why you get out of bed every morning. No. But there are some people that stick that poster of that car on your wall and wake up thinking about it. And Allah knows best, because I think you know, when you put the dunya in the perspective that it actually is in, which is a fleeting sort of moment, and then the akhirah is, you know, everlasting.
Not worth a mosquito's wing or whatever.
Yeah, and it's just like, how much do I want to give up of, you know, precious time? And I say that not with the firm belief that I make the, you know, most of every single minute. I know I don't. Of course I don't. I waste a lot of time, no doubt. And someone could come back at me and say, well, instead of wasting that time, why don't you work on that time and do something? You know, of course. And they've got every right to say that about me. But I don't feel happy about the time I waste, you know. Yeah. And I don't know if I'd be happy about. Yeah, and I don't know if I'd be happy about consciously spending that time or too much of it on a future that is fleeting, that I can't guarantee. So it's just a catch-22 of it. Obviously everybody knows the balance, and actually I say everyone knows the balance. I don't think everybody does. I don't think anyone comfortably strikes a balance that says, you know what, I'm working just enough. I've got enough balance here between family and friends, family and you know, work.
I mean, I guess we don't define it a lot of the time, and then it's always just out of reach, because we don't even know what the end goal is in terms of like hours or whatever is spent with this and that. But also, bro, I think you need to, like, when you define, like, let's say you're working for money, whether it's at your job or a side thing, right? In your mind, you, like, it sounds like what you're saying is you think that money is going to be for something that is purely like dunyawi, but it's not necessarily the case, right? Like my son like smashed my wife's laptop. Nice. Like, I would like to easily like replace that, like just get a new one, right? And get like the best one. Like, why not, right? Not I don't mean to be extravagant. I just mean buy the sickest laptop that will be very fast. It will do what she needs it to do, and it will last a long time, and that's the best purchase, right? So if I'm working hard to be able to do that, is that like dunyawi? I wouldn't say that's dunyawi, you know? No. Or even like, I want to be able to fly to see my family like every few months. I want to be able to easily afford that. right? Or like when I'm traveling, I want to be able to, when I'm traveling with kids, I want to be able to go business class because that'll be much more comfortable. Like all these things, is it dunyawi, is it akhirah, is it, you know, it's like, it's all justifiable from a akhirah point of view even.
I think my kids aren't very well. I think what I keep falling into is, you know, you look at your financial situation and you kind of almost cheat yourself into thinking you've already kind of made it because you look at so many people that are far worse off than you.
Yes.
Right? And I think I that happens to me all the time. Like look at this flat, right? And you know, it's not a penthouse, of course. It's very average in terms of rent prices here. But at the same time, it's like how many houses I've been to in my line of work where people are living in horrendous conditions, right? And that's just in my line of work, let alone across the world, let alone everywhere, you know, in the world. And you know, you only need to put on the TV or YouTube or whatever and just see people like living in cardboard boxes all over the place. And it's just like, for me, it's like maybe I think I do get in that sort of, okay, I have that aura of gratitude and I want to have that aura of gratitude, but that aura of gratitude can also paralyze me into not. Although I'll ask for more, I won't necessarily have the drive to work for more because I'm like, well, come on, like be happy with what you have. Why do you want to work for more?
Well,
I'll be grateful for it. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? That I'll be grateful for it, but then it's like
the gratitude makes you like want to just be
content with it.
Yeah, and if you're seeking more, maybe you're not like fully content or whatever. But you know, the people that you're saying live in boxes, and if they saw where you live, they'd be like, wow, you should be so grateful for that.
Yeah.
If they knew the opportunities you have, wouldn't they say, what the hell, you should be making way more because you got opportunities I don't have?
Yeah, maybe. But at the same time, like I wouldn't say that what I have now isn't because I didn't take any opportunities. You understand what I mean?
No, I'm not saying you didn't take any.
Of course, that was what I'd throw back at them. I'd say, "Oh yeah, I took my opportunity. That's how I am where I am today." You know.
Yeah. But what I'm trying to say is it's relative. So they might be, you know, living in whatever shanty town or whatever because of limited opportunities, whatever. Now, if I have, let's say I'm making, I don't know, 36k a year, but I have had opportunities to make 60k a year.
Yeah.
That guy who's poor, he'd be like, yes, be grateful because you're living way better than me. But come on, man, take your opportunities. Why you should be earning more? You know, that I think that's what he would say to me. So it's like, do you take because everyone's got different opportunities, really.
I've never thought about what they would hypothetically say, because I just don't know. I don't like some of it gets put into so much perspective because I came across this very random Vice documentary about what are the animals called? They begin with P and they look like armadillos.
Oh yeah, Pangolin.
Pangolins, right? Have you seen it? That one on YouTube?
No, I haven't seen it.
Okay, so like there's this whole thing about pangolins, right? And I'm not going to go on a complete tangent, but like essentially they're like black market traded, okay? And the scales of pangolin are very popular in China for herbal medicine and stuff. And it was like a bag of this particular quantity was like $4,000, right? But the guy that hunted it got paid like $2 or $3, right? And they were showing that like, oh, so they started the journey with this guy somewhere in Africa who was hunting for this pangolin, right? And he's like, oh yeah, I've got one. You know, I'm gonna feed my family this week. Great. And then he goes to the bushmeat seller in the market to sell it to him. And he's like, oh, haggling with him, and they're putting in brackets how much that particular currency is conversion, and it's like, oh, $2, $3, $5. I think maximum was like $5 to $10, right? And then immediately after that was like a graph of like, okay, this is the chain, and this is how it goes, and this is how much this bag sells abroad, and it's like $4,000, I think, or something along those lines. I was just thinking that's insane, and I was like, I can't remember. I think I was watching it with my father-in-law, and I was like, this guy needs to cut out the middleman because he's getting absolutely jumped. But it just made me think like, because then it went back eventually to that hunter giving his wife some money to go to get groceries. And she was like, he gave her some notes, and she was like, I can't do anything with this. I need more than this. And he's like, I can't, like, there's nothing I can do. Like, this is all I can afford. Yeah. And it just made me think, like, subhanAllah, like, you know, that guy's that guy is doing what he can, and the whole documentary is about how this needs to be outlawed and blah blah blah. But this guy's clearly just doing it to survive, and I see stuff like that all the time, and it does, despite what you said about people saying, oh, why wouldn't you take your opportunities and stuff? It does absolutely cripple me, because I just think I just can't. There's two sides of the spectrum. It's very easy to hate the rich and to have sympathy for the poor, and it's like, oh, I don't want to be that guy. Like, listen to that podcast yesterday about about like how
if Jeff Bezos bought the moon, then it would be like you buying a Big Mac.
Oh, bro, some crazy examples. There were some crazy examples. They were also like they had this segment where they were going through like some really rich items. I was listening to audio, so I don't know what the pictures were, but they must have been bringing out some pictures of some items like golden toilet paper. What other ones? Like particular surfboards, like one of a kind surfboard. All this other stuff. Ice. One of them was ice, like really expensive ice. And it's just, and then they hit someone because they were doing these hypothetical kind of conversions of, okay, if this person was alive today, this is how much they'd have inflation wise. And they were talking about some people that are alive today, and they're like, oh, he could just buy me a house. Like one of the guys was like, oh, he could just buy me a house. And then the other guy was like, no, he could buy everybody a house. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like he could buy everyone a house. So I was just thinking like, oh, it's crazy because I'm not saying those guys should buy houses, but I'm saying look at the danger that money can get you in, that you're so oblivious to the good that you could do and how much, ثُمَّ لَتُسْأَلُنَّ يَوْمَئِذٍ عَنِ النَّعِيمِ, right?
But you could say as well, like, let's say we're talking about Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, go for it.
He, through his company, he employs, it might be more than 1 million people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, how many out of those people he employs, how many through that salary have bought houses?
Yeah, of course.
Thousands, probably.
Of course. But at the same time, like...
Bro, that's 1 million jobs.
At the
1 million jobs.
No, of course it's a million jobs, but at the same time, there is that discussion being had of how the quality of life for those workers and what kind of conditions they're working in, and is it
that's a separate thing, I would say.
Yeah.
I was saying, look, first he's allowing, let's say, 1 million people to eat, okay?
I think if...
And half of those are not well paid, let's say, not the correct amount. The other half are well paid. So it's like, there are different elements to it, no doubt.
I think, bro, when it comes to that, and my argument for that is that it's all about consolidation, right? If Jeff Bezos didn't exist, Amazon didn't exist, all those people would have had jobs elsewhere, and all of those other companies that didn't get basically dominated by Amazon would be selling as individuals. And actually, you might find that the workers, if they were working in these hypothetical companies that would have filled that gap, they might have had better working conditions because there would have been more of them, and they would have, do you understand what I mean? Like, it wouldn't have been so battery farmed workers, so to speak. But as Amazon grows, it's knocking out these companies left, right, and centre.
There is a monopoly argument, that's true.
And then with a monopoly, then you've got basically everyone has to work here, everyone's going to work in these conditions. So
if we strictly go on the whole thing of he's got whatever, 10 billion, whatever it is, dollars, net worth. He's got that, and it's like he could buy everyone a house. I'm just saying, contrasting that with the fact that he is employing hundreds of thousands, if not a million people. And the people that work in like Amazon HQ, many of them are earning like 100k a year, 200k a year, So
the thing is, that ball is rolling. Like, I don't like being that guy that says, oh, the rich need to do this and why don't the rich do that, and I don't know, I don't think it's that simple all the time. However, I do wonder why, with the amount of billionaires and wealth that we have, that why where does it all get lost? Like, why
they don't pay zakat, bro? That's why.
I know that's it. True, isn't it? It's absolutely true. But there is like that notion of like, how could you concentrate it all in that particular small minority of people? And there is absolutely, like, these guys, they live and sleep. They sleep, they wake up and sleep every day. And how much are they really fulfilling the potential that they could have in terms of changing the world, instead of benefiting people. Like, some of the stuff was so shallow. Like, they were like, oh, with this amount of money, you could literally call up, make one phone call, and you could have dinner with a congressman, or you could have dinner with a senator, or you could meet the president. Like, they were just saying the levels of stuff. They were like, oh, and with this level of money, there'll be a plane that's always waiting for you wherever you are. Like, these people, the pilot and the air hostesses and whatever, you employed, like, they work for you. Like, they just wait on your call and all this other stuff. And I was just thinking, like, imagine having that much influence. But how empty must your life really be? Like, because once you have it all, what else can you do? What else? Do you understand?
Well, that's why he's going to space, isn't it? Because he's looking to fill the void with a new accomplishment.
It's all about legacy, though, isn't it? It's like, oh, I want to build the...
Yeah, it is.
I don't want my name to die.
With Bezos, definitely with him. Because he's definitely got that ego thing where he's like, I've got to beat Elon Musk, innit?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what, like, think of history as well, like, all these big shots. It was always legacy, and I want the statues with my thing. I want people to remember me. And some people got that, and some people got forgotten.
But you know what? You're right, actually, because that is, going back to Islam and bringing it back home, that is the one defining characteristic that's missing. Because if you think about it, if all you're thinking about is dunya, and all you know about is dunya, then of course you want your name to last in the dunya as long as possible, right? But if you're very aware,
they're literally holding on to life.
They're holding on to it, bro. Yeah, because they want. They're probably pumping themselves with all sorts of hormones to live longer anyway. It's
Young
probably got
people's blood, bro.
Yeah, bro. Probably got like a freezer, like specially built so you can put his brain in it when he dies. Yeah. But yeah, if you had, you'd like to think if you had Amin in the hot seat of Amazon, it'd be that company, bro. It would probably disappear tomorrow. You know why? Because you'd probably think, right, I've got all this money. I'm gonna fix world hunger. All right, good night. Everybody's done. Do you know what I mean? All right, everybody go work somewhere else. We've done it. We've achieved our dream. All right, let's give everybody a house. Do you know what I mean? At least that would probably be. That's what I'd like to think would happen. Maybe keep a small little Amazon bookstore, just for the sadaqah jariyah, right? But at the end of the day, if you can solve world hunger tomorrow, I think you're in pretty good shape. But yeah, solving world hunger, another thing, like. Not to go on another tangent, but yeah, all these charities, the inequality always exists despite how much money we think that we're supplying to make a change. I just love to. It's hard to obviously visualize it because there's so much corruption in the world, and that money gets lost at different angles, right? Whether it's just poorly managed. I'm talking in general, like just cash flow in general, poorly managed, or corruption, or theft, or whatever it is. It's like it'd be really interesting to see where everything kind of gets lost in the bigger picture, because we're meant to have this whole trickle down nonsense, aren't we? Everywhere in the world, really, everyone's meant to benefit. From taxes. Oh, everyone should benefit from work. Everyone should benefit. So it'd be really interesting to see it. Like if I could visualize a mind map right now, or animation of like
where does it end up?
Where does it? This is where these are the holes, the black holes where it's ending up. Right, this guy's pocket, this person's pocket, this. And it's just crazy. Like how many Ramadans are we raising money for particular areas, particular countries, particular places? And it's like, I go on this Share the Meal app, which is run by the World Food Program. I think it's a UN thing. And it's like every year I'm going on here, and it's just the same places I'm donating money to again and again and again. And it's like, we're just patching up problems, but where is it all getting lost? And I see it obviously now. You see it as you get older, like corruption and how easy it is. And people aren't thinking long term. They're thinking about my life right now. I need to pocket this because I need to look after myself and mine. And it is horrendous. And the injustice of it all. Because really and truly, on paper, bro, you can't have all of that money in the world and so many people just going without. Like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense whatsoever.
I mean, it's obvious. Like all the charities know deep down that no amount of money will fix the problem. It has to be like the system has to fix it. Like the economy of whatever country genuinely needs to like work rather than just bandages.
I think that the thing about this, I'm trying to get it up. This app is that they constantly, like every time you open it, it's like their mission is ending world hunger, and that's like the thing that they keep saying. Yeah, and I'm just like. Yeah, we keep.
Well, they're not going to do it. I mean, especially
exactly,
bro. I don't know the details of this stuff, but the UN is not helping to end world hunger. They're implementing these policies that keep countries poor, like all this, you know, aid is tied to gender programs and flipping World Bank, IMF.
There'd be so much give and take in terms of quality and life of life as well. I mean, if you think about even that pangolin thing was a bad example, right? Because not everyone's going to be interested in pangolins. But if you think about like miners for all these sort of minerals and
coltan,
that we need for everything that's in here, like each mineral, whether it's the gold strips or the metal or whatever, where is that coming from in the world, and how much are they getting paid? And then if they were actually getting paid what they should be getting paid, how much would this phone cost in the end, right? Which kind of puts things into perspective, but then at the same time, it's like,
bro, £1,000 iPhone, that's cheap, bro.
Yeah,
it should be £2,000.
It should be way more, bro. It should be way more.
No, but I guess the way
if you're thinking of the labor that it goes to go to the mines and get that, and those guys are getting paid like what $1-2 hypothetically speaking. No, they should. If they were getting paid, I don't know, a better wage. I'm not even going to put a number in it because I wouldn't know what the wage is. Then the prices of all these electronics would skyrocket. But at the same time,
maybe not though, bro. Maybe let's say now, out of £1,000 iPhone, okay, £200 goes to VAT in the UK. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. Then you've got 800. Out of the 800, I'm gonna guess Apple will keep 300 of it. Yeah. So I think in reality, that 300 would just shrink. So now Apple would make £100 profit from each iPhone rather than 200. So. Yeah, because no one would buy it if it was more expensive, because the supply chain and everything's like expensive. Then there's always going to be companies who push down the price because they're like, okay, we're not gonna make sales because we're the absolute best phone. We're gonna make sales because we are slightly cheaper than the best phone, but we also have good features and blah blah blah. So but part of it is our choice. You know, we choose to buy a £1,000 iPhone. There are also good cheaper phones out there as well.
But I think what I'm trying to highlight is the
true cost.
Yeah, without inequality, a lot of the stuff that we're living with now, like that we take for granted as our quality of life, a lot of it would cease, or at least we wouldn't be able to afford it anymore.
Yeah, probably.
It's something as simple as food, bro. A lot of the food that we have,
it's too cheap
because it's too cheap. It's based on inequality and based on a very
it's based on being able to exploit people because you have leverage over them, isn't it? So if you're Tesco and you're buying, let's say you're a farmer and Tesco says, I want to buy all your potatoes, but I'm gonna offer you this price, which is a low price. You know, for your peace of mind, you might accept that and say, fine, because then at least you're going to sell the whole harvest. And they're able to do that because they're coming to you, they're so big and they're saying, I'll buy it all. You don't have to worry about selling it then. So that's how it works, isn't it? Because the thing is, they have that leverage over you, right? It's like, because why do they have leverage? It's because they've been so successful in attracting customers into their shops to buy. If they were a small supermarket, they can't go to the farmer and say, I'm going to buy the whole year's harvest, because they'll be too small. So that there is an element of punishing success in that sense as well, isn't it? Because like, okay, so now when I get so successful at selling, and my customer service is so good, my product's so good, my all the branches are so clean, and it's a good experience to shop in them. And now when I get that ability to lower prices, negotiate lower prices, now you're saying that's unethical. So it isn't that simple, but it kind of is, but it kind of isn't.
I think for me, I all I can keep focusing on is the original source of that particular item, right? It's like it goes back to that pangolin one again, because it's like, how exploited is that guy that he can't even afford to give his wife things for groceries, but he's just hunted down a $4,000, $5,000 animal, and he's got pennies from it. And I think that's what I'm trying to highlight. Like, ultimately, you see where all these things are coming from. All the building blocks of everything that we want, whether it's food or whether it's technology, whether it's clothes, whatever it is, the building blocks, so the raw material that there's being gathered by all these workers. Every single one of them is being exploited in terms of look how they live, look at their living costs, look at the situation that they're kind of in, the countries that they come from, and the shacks that they.
Let me ask you something then. What do you think if I'm the guy buying the pangolin off the hunter?
Yeah.
Let's say in reality they're paying him $5.
Yeah.
How much do they sell it for?
They sell it. I can't remember, but they do that. Obviously, they sell it a lot more.
Let's say they sell it for like $50.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So how much do you think I should actually pay the guy? Like I can get it for $5 because he's got no leverage.
Yeah, no, of course. So,
but how much?
At the same time,
should I just pay him more because it's fairer? Like, what do you think should be my thought?
No, I think what I'm saying is like there is because everyone in that chain is getting ripped off, apart from maybe the guy at the top. Right, I think that's what until it gets to a customer who's going to use it. Because even the guy that he's selling it to, the guy who works in the bush market, whatever you want to call it, I'm sure his living conditions aren't that much greater than the first guys, right? And it's obviously until it gets to that last guy who's got it and he's selling it to the rich person who's going to consume it, and it's not going to go from there. That's essentially it. Obviously, there's levels. I think the lower they are down the chain, the more exploited they're being.
Most of the time, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is. It's just about highlighting that because, yeah, we speak about the fairness of it all. We speak about, but at the same time, going back to what we were saying, with the Zakat model implemented, actually everybody would kind of, the 2.5 that I give is very different to the 2.5 that Mr. Bezos gives, isn't it? So, and if you think about it now, like even with, how many of them. I mean, obviously they do it on lower levels, but how many of them are like extreme tax dodgers anyway, and they dodge all of that and they keep all of that, despite the fact that it's one rule for one person, one rule for another, and there's all these systems and these offshore
loopholes.
Bank accounts and all these loopholes that they're all sort of privy to. Oh, we're just uncovering and cracking the egg open of all this corruption in the world. It's really upsetting.
But what do you think though, for real, bro? Like, if I'm buying that pangolin, I've got the leverage over the guy to buy it for $5.
Of course.
Should I buy it for more money just to be fairer?
No. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that. I'm saying that. This is what I'm saying. The pangolin isn't worth $6,000 anymore. Okay, I said it from the beginning. I said, how much would this iPhone be if we were paying everybody correctly? Right. If they really want that particular thing, then everything should skyrocket. All these luxuries, because it's a luxury at the end of the day. It's not something that people are living and breathing and it should be subsidized, right? That they need this particular thing, like a loaf of bread, okay? Or, a pint of milk or whatever it is. We're talking about something that is, once again, going back to it, pangolin's a bad example because it's meant to be like this illegal thing and whatever. But these inequalities exist anyway. Actually, It's probably because it's so black market that he is getting exploited at the same time.
Yeah.
But there's things that are legal that are the same sort of kind of thing.
Yeah, like the coltan or the gold.
Yeah, the gold mining and all that sort of stuff. But there's certain things that, every government kind of subsidizes anyway, right? Because it's a necessity. But then there's all these luxuries that we assume are necessary and that we must have them in our lives. But actually, if you were to say, well, no, I want to pay the actual price for that, so everybody is adequately recompensed for their work, and not the guy that's spent all day in the mine, and the kids that are spending all their days in the mine go back home to a cardboard box sort of thing, just so that I can have a fancy phone. And then it puts things into perspective for me because it's like, well, if they were paying that person an adequate wage, and then the knock-on effect is that I have to pay way more for this phone, well then maybe I don't need a phone. Maybe I can afford to have something a lot less fancy, and then it puts things into perspective for everyone if they're really going to be about it. And that's my argument. My argument is like, yeah, I want more equality in the world, but until we can learn to live with less as ourselves, then, and it goes right back to what we were saying at the start of this, where it's like, when I said I look at those who are less than me, and then it kind of cripples me from going further. Because when I was listening to those guys talking about all these millionaires and what it takes to get there, I was thinking of how many people they would have had to step on to get to where they are, even on a day-to-day running of business, right? I remember when I was doing Pure XI and I was looking at clothing and bringing clothing from particular places, and I was like, "Bro, the clothes that I'm getting are so much cheaper in China than I'll just do that. I'll get them from China," right? And then I started looking at, stories of like sweatshop workers and all this other stuff, and well, this is why I'm getting it so cheap, because the people that are doing it aren't getting the same standards of living. And that's why when I pay the guy in my local city, he's charging a lot more, because he's not living in a box. Do you understand what I mean? So that was my kind of argument in the sense. It was like, the more you go up in the world, at least in this dunya, and the more you lull yourself into this false sense of like, oh, that's fine, I can have that, that's a nice thing, I'll have it, blah blah blah. And obviously you could go on forever, and that's probably really dangerous and dark to go down that rabbit hole of like, everything I do has a consequence somewhere around the world and I'm going to be held accountable for all of that. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying as a whole, the idea of millionaires and billionaires and stuff, in this society, in the way it exists today, they're only really made through the stepping on other people and the inequality and the oppression of other people. We've had rich people in the past, and they even highlighted that on that podcast. Millionaires millionaires, billionaires, trillionaires. They even mentioned of people in the past, Mansa Musa, for example, was one person they brought up. Well, obviously we know like Sulaiman alayhi salam is meant to be richer than anybody that ever existed, and I'd like to think, of course, that Sulaiman alayhi salam isn't going to have made his wealth on some sort of oppression. But at the same time, what you can't negate is that there was a lot of slave labor back in the past. A lot of things were bypassed, and when they got rid of slavery, at least in the West, they had to find something to replace it with. Well, this is economic slavery, really, bullied into a particular situation that you can't get out of because of the circumstances, and paid pennies for it. And not only have you got that kind of workmanship slavery, but you've also got the debt slavery of everyone else living in the West who's chasing this stuff. You're getting it from both sides. The guy paying once a month for this iPhone because he can't afford to buy it all, and then the guy that you're paying like a couple of pennies, but because he can't afford anything else, he has to work that job. And they're both sides of that coin are getting sort of maybe done over, and you're just kind of pocketing it. And I don't know, just putting all of that in perspective, it gets me on a mad thought process, and maybe feel a bit guilty about the things that we have. But at the same time, it's like, I think it's healthy to look sometimes at that and to reevaluate the situation we're in, because Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam says to look at those that are lower than you, look at those that are less than you, and look at the simple lives that they lived, right? The Sahaba, and look at, they wanted a house, they built one out of mud there and then. You know what I mean? Not for anybody's oppression, not for anybody's sort of hardship. And again, because we want more dunya, we don't think about, I look at some of the stuff even in this room. Look at that microwave over there that everyone can see. Like, what kind of components are in there, and what kind of journey did that have? And obviously we live in a world of marketing, and you're going to know that for a fact about marketing. All these companies are like, we're green energy, and we're part of this association, and we look after this person, and we do. Do you know what I mean? Can't buy a chocolate bar without the logo on it these days. And it's like, is that really enough? Are we really doing enough? No, absolutely not. Because at the end of the day, it's still one big organisation that's gonna, put profits first, right? But
I think
I'm
like
boring
that,
you with this hippie stuff.
No, I think as Muslims we have both sides.
Yeah.
We have both sides actually. Like, we have complete like freedom of business in a sense, and then we also have I think it's not a hippie thing. I think it's the
circle
perspective.
The
It's
circle.
an akhirah perspective, right? So, for example, me, I would not really change too much about what Jeff Bezos does, except a couple things. One, be Muslim. 2, therefore pay zakah. 3, have the consciousness and the akhirah viewpoint, and if you have that, you'll just make the right decisions, whatever they are, right? It might be that he decides, okay, those people I'm paying $10 an hour and it's not enough, I'm going to pay them $12 an hour, and that will become enough. He might choose that, not because it makes business sense, but because he's fear for his akhirah. So I wouldn't, like, I might also, as a state, I might put certain things in place to avoid oppression, of course. But like if I was to think about that, I would say that. Then when it comes to like these people who are like mining, for example, I would say the problem is that they don't have opportunities. Like they mine because they have to mine because no other opportunities. Why do they not have opportunities? No doubt a large reason is because of colonialism still exists. Because debt slavery in the sense of World Bank, IMF, whatever it is, still exists, right? And corruption through the current politicians in those countries and their ex-colonial powers. They're still ruining the country. So I don't think like the guy buying the raw gold off the guy and giving him a few dollars.
No,
that's not necessarily where things need to change. If the guy mining, if we just gave him a bit more opportunities by removing all those shackles, right, which needs to be forcefully ripped off really, because these people are not letting go, right? If we gave him opportunities by ripping away those things, inshallah he would have a certain level of awareness that you can skip the middleman in certain circumstances. Then you can be in a better negotiating power to sell for $10 instead of $3, right? Because that's a difference between like the guy mining the coltan and then Apple. What did Apple do as like a strategic decision is they're like, look, we're going to manufacture the phones. We're going to research and design the phones. We're going to manufacture them ourselves. And then we're not going to even sell it into like stores. We're going to have our own stores so that when we sell from our own stores, we get all the profit. We don't have to do any wholesale pricing. So what did they do? They cut out the middleman like multiple times. Now the guy mining, he might not know about that. Why? Because lack of opportunity and education, all that. So I just like, I've thought about this, and I talked with my cousins about this before, like in the context of Algeria. Like literally, my cousin was saying this. He's like, look, these crooks who run our country, like the businessmen trying to monopolize everything, literally just leave. If they just leave us alone, like don't help us, just remove the shackles, we'll be fine. So those are some ideas, Yani, for how to remove this issue.
It's the loop that's not being closed, and those that would follow Islam in that way would close that loop, because like it's like everything floating to the top, but it never goes back down to the bottom again, right? It's like that wealth is amassing at the top, but it just sits in people's pockets, so to speak. And like you said about, I know we keep talking about Bezos like he's going to save the world, but he's a good example, I guess, of somebody in that wealth that we can put a name to. But yeah, like if he went back to right back at the beginning, okay, so it's that journey. Let's say I don't know, whether it's Tim Cook of Apple, whoever it is, let's say the phone. Okay, so it took a particular journey to get to this phone, right? And we've spoke about the coal miners, the miners of the gold and the minerals, whatever you want to call it. And they got all the way straight to Tim Cook's pocket, all of those millions and millions of dollars. But then all he needs to do is take a journey back to the start again, right? And make opportunities for those people and those kids and whatever, or pay them more, or here's a bonus or whatever. But then again, they might not work in that coal mine anymore. They weren't working at mine. So there is that problem. Like if everybody was okay, who is going to do those jobs? Nobody. Even if you paid, like, there's an argument like
a robot will do it, bro.
Yeah, maybe. But then you need some stuff for that robot. You need to make that robot. But at the same time, it's like if you paid everyone adequately, then actually people would be paid based on the difficulty of their job, not necessarily always just what the job is. Like I'd argue that
I don't know about that, bro.
Bro, I'd say my job is a lot easier than the guy digging for coal or digging for gold in a mine. But he's getting paid way less than I ever am, than you ever are. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
No, I know what you're saying. But I'm saying,
it shifts perspective.
Like as a business person, when I'm thinking of how to price something, I absolutely don't think of difficulty. I think of value, right? Of course. So if, let me try and think of an example. What's a product? I don't know. Like an iPhone, right?
Yeah.
An iPhone, it actually delivers so much value to the end user in terms of be able to call people, text people, use internet anywhere in the country, with a good battery life, amazing camera in it, all of these things, right? The value of an iPhone is way more than £1,000, in my opinion, at least to me, right? If I think of all the things it does for me, it might be way more than £1,000. So it doesn't matter that the fact that I didn't make it. It was easy to make. Robots made it. The value of it is high, no matter how hard it was, right? Obviously, there is a cross section, or not a cross. There is an overlap between difficulty, because those engineers that made the chip, designed the chip that makes the iPhone run so smoothly and all that. No doubt they work really hard, right? Yeah. But there is a clear difference between difficulty and value, because if the guy that is mining, he's working so hard, but he's not getting paid much. That's because the value of what he's doing is not high. Why? Because anyone can do it. And it's almost like the more you specialize, the more you do something other people can't do, that's the more you get paid, because you're bringing more value, more like scarce value, stuff you can't find everywhere.
I don't know if it should. I don't know if.
I'm not saying that's how it should be. I'm saying that's how it is.
This is it, and I don't know if it should be, as opposed to one solid graph, but more of a cross section of like, I don't know how you'd think of it, like you've got the mental fortitude, like the difficulty intellectually that you need to do certain things, right? As opposed to how simple certain things are on one end, but then you've got the risk, the physical risk, as opposed to the low risk. So for example, if there's a job that is really low risk and also really, you don't really need to be that smart to do it, or you don't need to think that hard about doing it, then you could say that should be a low paying job. But then it changes based on where it is on the graph. So you could have a job that's really you really need to think hard and have the qualifications to do it, but it's actually low risk. That could be a particular type of pay. Or a job that you don't have to think very hard about, but it's really high risk, like the mining thing, maybe, possibly.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If people have opportunities, it will play out in the correct way. So for example, truck drivers in the US, they get paid a lot, because they have to compromise their kind of health and their time with family, because they're like driving so much. But they only get paid a lot because not everyone wants to live that life. So that it becomes a kind of a rare skill, or whatever you want to call it. Whereas a truck driver in Congo, it might be like, no, you pay him hardly anything, because anyone's willing to do that, because they just want to. So, but in Congo people have the opportunities that people have in the US, then again, the jobs people don't want to do would start getting increase in how much you pay. That's why like a plumber in the UAE is way cheaper than in the UK, because in the UK no one wants to be a plumber, and so it's like very well paid. Even though plumbing, it's not a difficult thing, but it's a rare thing. People don't want to do it so much. I feel like, what we've said, people who are like into international development, or these kind of topics, whether it's charity, people that studied it, like what we're saying is probably very basic.
Of course.
Like
they're probably banging their heads against the wall.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, look, if you guys have opinions and stuff and you want to chip into the conversation, please do. This stuff I think it crosses people's minds of all walks of life, but they never really wanted to think too deeply about it, because it can, like I said, it frees you into feeling guilty about every single thing you do. There's nothing I can say in this house that I own that I could say I was truly probably free of oppression. Do you understand what I mean? Okay, I'll buy a few things. I'd like to think that some books I have are, but at the same time, like deforestation, bro. Where's that paper come from? Do you know what I mean? But ultimately, there's you'd like to think that there's a level of consciousness about everything that you do, where it comes from, etc. And I'm not saying stop protesting the streets or everything, because at the end of the day, I think everybody's
you have
got
to pick your battles.
Yeah, pick your battle, and everyone's got a level of hypocrisy. I could go and get shouted at by someone from Greenpeace, but I could name a few things that they're wearing, or a few things that they, do you know what I mean? Like they use, like, how do they organise a protest? Probably for a phone. Okay, then what's in that phone? Where's that phone come from? Do you know what I mean? We could go on forever about all the stuff that we have in this world.
Yeah, everyone has to accept certain trade-offs, I think.
Of course.
As Muslims, I don't think we have this like absolutism where it's like
a domino effect forever.
We absolutely cannot buy any products where there's any oppression. I don't there is always a realistic element in Islam,
of course.
And we believe that ultimately justice will only be served Yawm al-Qiyamah, right? Yeah. And so obviously we're responsible for ourselves, but then Allah doesn't. If we were to say that Allah is going to hold us accountable for obviously he's going to hold us accountable for our like intentions and actions. But if we can't buy food without buying something potentially oppressive, then we're not going to be, because we're only held account for what we can do. So that's something I feel that some of the whatever hippie types or whatever, they don't have, obviously. Like we have a more realistic view of what it means.
But we also have that loop, bro, that closes, don't we? Like we have a loop that, you know, it's hard to apply that loop on a global scale. But if you were to think of like maybe back in the day where it wasn't so much globalism and it was very much isolated communities or isolated countries, you could effectively establish a loop where the poorest people would benefit off the richest people, you know. And vice versa.
You mean like with zakah and stuff?
With zakah, exactly.
No.
So the rich
you
people
mean we have a
benefit.
solution? Yeah.
Yeah, the rich people would benefit because the poor people are working for them, etc. But then the poor people wouldn't necessarily go without basic things that they need and a quality of life that's acceptable, because the rich people would give back through that zakah model.
I don't think Islam even would create equality in income or status or power.
Of course. I'm not saying everyone's going to be...
It would just mean that the lowest people in the world are still have food, shelter.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it will raise that bar, because that's what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying
that's true.
Everyone is going to be... I don't say everyone's going to be, I don't know, $30,000 a year average salary, and that's everyone because of because we've leveled the playing field. I'm just saying like
why should people have to live in that next level?
Exactly. And you know, when
and
there's
no
an
doubt,
emergency,
like 2.5%, no doubt that would sort that.
Of course. And I don't think people look. A lot of people have honor anyway. A lot of men in general that have heads of families, they've got an honor about them that they're not just going to be asking for handouts 24/7, right? But what happens is, if there's an emergency, you know, my daughter's sick, I can't, you know, then there's a system there to support that person, because it can lift them out of there. So that's my main thing. It's about, I'm not naive to think, we're all gonna get rid of it, but at the same time, you know, we don't want to. Anyway.
Distraction.
Yeah, I've got family buzzing me, but we've gone on for quite a bit. So
alhamdulillah, bro. Good stuff. Damn, was there something I was gonna say? I guess not. If you have any questions, suggestions, inputs, then contact us. Go to mindheispodcast.com, and anonymously or via email you can contact us. And you know what, bro? I think we should get some guests. So we should, if anyone has, I think we got an email suggesting one guest, so that was useful. So if there are anyone else, then send that through as well. Also, I guess Instagram, you can also Instagram us. That's also on that page, isn't it? The handle.
It's Mind Heist. Let's go for...
It's Twitter. On the page though, right?
I know, but Twitter, I don't know if it's on there.
Okay, but Instagram's there.
Instagram's there. Mind Heist Pod.
So you can
Twitter.
DM us on Instagram as well with your suggestion, whatever. And good episode. What am I going to call this? Hate the rich.
Oh no.
Inshallah, bro, next episode
I'll call it
I'll have
right now.
No, it's gonna be long. It's not gonna be one thing. I'll try and summarize it. And next episode, inshallah, I'll have a better background. I got another canvas, but there's one more thing coming, so inshallah I'll sort that out. And I'm just so hot, bro. You can probably see in the reflection that I'm sweating. So it's kind of crazy, and there's nothing I can do about this. But like you're saying, bro, people have it way worse. So alhamdulillah. Yalla, episode 123. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.